Werewolf the Podcast can be found now at all good podcasting sites. It's on Spotify and Amazon and all those cool places. So, if you want to listen to all the stories, not necessarily come on YouTube, go find it. Thanks for listening. Bye. Hello, this is Will Your Werewolf, and today I'm going to be carrying on with my stories. If you'd like to like the channel, that'd be great. If you'd like to subscribe, I'd love you even more. If you want to comment, that's fantastic. If you want to ring the belly thing, the notification stuff, that's wonderful. If you'd like to share this channel with other people, well, you're an amazing person. Other than that, I'm just going to carry on with my stories. Oh, there's a podcast. I'll put up something about there being a podcast, Werewolf the Podcast. But anyway, let's carry on with today's story. Excuse me. Unicorns are very rare. Thank fuck. A unicorn is a rare but beautiful thing in the human world. It's a woman who wants to join a hetero couple for a threesome. Now you can imagine that they are very few and, well, much enjoyed. Oh, and it always makes me laugh how men think it's okay to stick their bits in another woman, but so wrong for another man to stick their bits in their woman that they own, apparently. I don't mean that, by the way, they don't own the woman. It is okay for their partner to sleep with someone of the same sex. That's sexy. But he would never have another man in his bed, never mind having another man's cock in himself. Always seems a little sexist to me. Humans are weird. This wasn't one of those beautiful examples of human unicorns. This was the unicorn of myth. I'd tracked it down to its fair lair somewhere. It sits on the other side of a water curtain beneath a beautiful fall that roars its way to the earth and pools in a bubbling cauldron of chaotic motion. It looks impossible to get to, but it isn't. If that thing can get there, then so can I. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to fucking murder it. The late evening sun shines through the thrown up moisture droplets that fill the air, giving the sky around the fall a beautiful mass of rainbows and sparkles, all glitter and stuff. It just seems so fitting for the home of a unicorn. It reminds me of the start of a 50s Disney cartoon. I feel like throwing up my sick droplets to fuck up those rainbows. I hate these waterfalls and rainbows. Is this artwork from a Yes album? Jesus Christ. I managed to find a little secure path running to the back of the fall, making its way dry beneath the cliff to the cave behind the wall of water. Well, I managed to find it a bit of a lie. All I had to do was follow the stench of the beast. They fucking reek awful. Let me try to describe it. No, it's not of candy cotton and sweetness. It's like rotting fish guts mixed with sewage and bile. No, it's not. It's much worse. That makes it sound relatively healthy. It's like It's like a unicorn. The smell is awful. How they mask it from their human prey, yes, human prey, I have no idea. It makes them easy to follow though, so I'm pretty grateful. That is where the creature lives. Oh no, this unicorn's not like Monty Python's Demon Bunny, but a truly dangerous and genuinely mental creature. I mean, horses are already nuts, aren't they? Already madly strung bundles of nerves that could kick off any time. But this thing's even worse. It's got a giant horn in the middle of its head that it can use to stick in things. Not that it needs it, its hooves and kicks are enough to kill most things it wants to, and to be honest, it does like to do a lot of killing. These creatures are not the friendly rainbow pooing creatures you hear of in fucking fairy tales. Unicorns are so pretty and noble to look at, are they not? They have a certain magical glamour that they impose on humans, mainly because humans are pretty easy to sort of hypnotise. Thank goodness unicorns are rare, otherwise it would be a very different world. We're going to go into more details about why they're so rare in a little while. The glamours they impose on humans are not the kindly glamour of a Disney creature trying to do the washing up. They like virgin girls for a reason. Yeah, the myths about them liking virgin girls and only going to virgin girls are true. Here is the reason. There are no female unicorns. Have you worked it out yet? Or do I have to go into further details? Yeah, that is it, yeah. There are baby unicorns, but there are no female unicorns. You can see they need virgin girls for only one reason, and that reason is reproduction. But why is it always a virgin girl? I mean, is it something unique that virgins have, or something that they don't have? The power to be good at sex or something? Does that not matter? All these poor girls die in the birthing process, or most of them do. They are, a unicorn foal is a bit large to be birthed naturally from a human. The baby giant horse has to rip its way free from the womb when ready. It's a bit like that clip in Alien when the xenomorph pops its way free from Kane's belly during lunch. The difference between the two is obvious though. One rips its way from an innocent young virgin's belly instead of some hard-nosed spaceman. Excellent film though, Alien, eh? Some cryptozoologists have theorised that the horn on its head is like the egg tooth on a baby bird's beak. You know, it uses its way to chip it out of an egg. The horn seems to be used to tear its way through the human's body until the hole is big enough to pull its way out of. Can you imagine it? All that blood screaming and ripping of flesh. I'm glad I'm not a young virgin girl. Although... Anyway, different story. This is not the only way these girls die. Some die in the conceiving process as well. Can you imagine it? Actually don't, because I think that's against the law. I think. Bestiality is not really acceptable except in a few sort of special American states. Unicorns are crazy, massive, horny horses with a mind to rape young human girls. There, I said it. See, they are nasty fucks, huh? Why am I hunting this one then, you may ask? Is it out of consideration for the little girls? Have I got a soft spot for young virgins? Well, I've got no soft spot for young virgins. It's not soft. A spot I do have, though. No, it's out of curiosity to see what would happen if I got to grips with one. I like hunting and killing, and a big fuck-off horse with a sword on its head seems somewhat of a worthy adversary. Also, can you imagine having that stuffed head over your mantelpiece when guests come round for dinner? Interesting you ask about that, Daphne. Well, I was out in the mountains of Chile when this beast decided to horn his way into my life. I took his head. It makes a good coat hook, don't you think, dear? They are rare for a particular reason. Knights kill most of them off, to be honest. They were recognised as a creature of Satan in the 13th century, and the church decided to rid the Christian lands of them. They secretly pronounced to the gentry that they must kill them off. It worked almost as well as it did with hunting of wolves. Wolves were hunted to extinction pretty quick. In England, the last unicorn was killed in 1513 by a young King Henry VIII. He actually collected the horn. They say it's a narwhal horn, but it isn't. It's a fucking unicorn horn. He did all this well before he started enjoying smashing down the Catholic Church. You know, and burning his wives and basically going mental with a plethora of STDs that plagued the dirty old man. Was he a dirty old man or just a lucky old man? I mean, he did a lot of shagging to get those diseases, and I suppose it's a point of view thing whether he's lucky or dirty. He could fight, fuck, or be friends with anyone in his little country. That is some power right there. Anyway, back to the story. Knights are pretty dumb. Well, they were. So I often wondered how they managed to get past, the glamour of the beasts. They were a weird thing if you think about it. Pious killers who did the chivalry and all that, but like nothing more than drinking, partying, whoring and violence. They were proper fighting machines as well. They were well fed from birth and trained daily to be the best killers they could be. They were like 6-foot-something murderers wrapped in armour. I suppose they were like fucking medieval tanks or something. Knights probably thought that it was the protection of God or some shit that stopped them from being glamoured. However, they were thick as mints, so they probably had no idea about a unicorn's glamour in the first place. Who knows? I reckon it's the armour itself. You may have heard of the fairy or fairy, F-A-E-R-Y, world having a bit of a difficulty with the metal iron. Well, they do, and as the unicorn is a creature of fairy, then the iron suits that the knights covered themselves in were a form of protection in two ways. both physical and mental. To be honest, the knights did for most of the fabulous beasts, dragons, trolls, and cool things like that. Only 2 unicorns were left by the end of the 1500s, and they had run off into fairyland for a few centuries of safety. That was all good and that. They were safe. People had forgotten about the magic in the fairy world. Now, the only people who cared were children, men with neckbeards, and that kind of woman who has mermaid and dolphin tarot cards. The problem with fairyland was the lack of those delicious virgins, so unicorns had to come back at some point, not to procreate and have kids, but to satiate their other needs. See, they are horrible beasts, so you moralistic animals that are worried that I might want to kill a beautiful animal will be happy that I am killing them. You don't believe me, do you? That, you still think they're pretty creatures. Well, still gonna kill it. I can hear the breathing of the unicorn in the cave. The stench of the beast is somewhat repugnant, but I won't stop me from ripping its head off. It's going to be a challenge. This is not my little pony. This is my big fuck-off horsey. This thing weighs about 2,500 pounds. It's 20 hands tall. Whatever the fuck that is. What's a hand size? Let me look it up on Google a moment. I'll do the maths for you metrical people too. This thing is about 1,100 kilograms and over 6'5" from front hoof to the tips of its ears. That's 210 centimeters. That's a big fucker. I've decided to attack it in the cave, as it would be a bit more difficult to kill this in a large area like an open field. If a big creature puts its head down and charges, it might be a little difficult to stop. You might as well reduce the risks of being stabbed by a horned. I wander into the space unannounced, but it knows I'm here. It's looking at me. Those eyes are absolutely terrifying. I'm looking into the most insane thing I have ever experienced. With most living things, I can work out a little how they're going to behave when a giant wolfman walks into life. This thing in front of me, was just fucking madly unstable and seemingly ready to do anything. There was no sense of fear from it. It was not angry. It was not responding in any sensible way. It just looked at me, working out where it would stab its horn first. That was all. How on earth am I going to go about this? I usually rely on getting some kind of emotional response to work with, but the horsey thing was staring at me with madness in its head. I took a deep breath and did my usual and roared my biggerest and scariest roar at the white monster. It lasted for ages and echoed around the cave, finally taking some time to fade. It was extremely impressive. I have to admit, I was very pleased with it. It would have made any human shit themselves, literally. The horse snickered as though giggling and raised its head. It's really hard to maintain eye contact with a creature with an eye on each side of its head, so it was a little disconcerting to try and stare at it in a frightening manner. Suddenly the unicorn reared and kicked its front feet into the sky. It leapt and kicked out with its back legs, and the hooves sparked as they struck the granite. The noise the horse made then was not a neigh you hear in a nursery rhyme. If you asked your toddler what noise does a horsey make, and the kid made that fucking noise, you'd be looking for a priest to remove the demon. I was impressed, to be honest. So I started my slow movement forward as the horse landed on all 4 feet in a graceful and balletic manner. It kept its eyes on me somehow and went silent, just watching me. This was pretty fucking disconcerting. As I slowly approached, I knew I would have to get to a reasonable distance in order to be able to charge. So I did, leaping across the space between us, claws ready to tear the throat, teeth bared to rip into its hide. It moved with an impossible speed and span to have its rump towards me. Clever! There would be nothing I could severely injure enough with my initial attack to kill it. Scratches and rends would be in the thick flesh, the throat, and it would have its head out of the way of the werewolf's leap. And then suddenly the reality of the move actually came to fruition. The rear legs kicked and hit me in the chest. The world altered as they made contact. My forward movement stopped as the hooves bit deep into my ribs and knocked all the wind out of me. I felt things break and smash as it launched me into the air, making me fly backwards across the cave and crash into a heap on the wall, and then slowly fall to the ground. I was more than winded, and it was so bad I couldn't breathe. I felt blood in my throat, and the impacts of the horsey legs had smashed me so severely I was very broken. After I'd gotten over the initial moment of discombobulation, I looked over at the unicorn. Now it was facing me as though it had never moved, and it looked relaxed and just like a big fucking horse with a horn on its head. I couldn't move or do anything but sit there and try and breathe. Oh, when I felt better, this fucking horsey thing's gonna get battered. I just needed a moment of recovery and waited for things to knit back together. I watched the horse have a shit while it held eye contact. That wasn't too good. Eventually, I rose to my feet, shaking off the pain and, more importantly, the very bruised pride. In my head, I made an announcement to Fen. Right, you fucking nag, you've booked a trip to the fucking glue factory. This time I circled the beast carefully. I realised I would not get out of the sight of the creature because it had 360-degree vision. So no sneaking up on this thing. Then it came to me. Distraction. So I ran away! It worked. The stupid thing started to follow me and chase me down the unlit tunnel into the bright outside world. I was running at full pace now in my wolf form with an avenging unicorn keeping pace behind me at some distance, but I could feel its breath and hear it. I knew that when we got out into the light it would take some time to adjust to the light, so I ran on with the hope that my sight would adapt in a few seconds and the beast behind me would take a few more moments as it came out of the dark. I would be able to see, but it would not be able to see me. I came out into the brightness and threw myself to one of the sides of the tunnel mouth and waited for the fucker to come flying out at speed. It was easy to estimate when he would arrive, from the noise of his hooves on the rock and the heavy horse breathing. Then it was going past and I leapt onto its neck and grabbed its head, sinking my claws deep into the creature's flesh. My added weight knocked the horse sideways and its footing was offset. I felt the beast come off balance and flail and fail with the extra weight hitting it at speed. It crashed to the floor with me standing on its side as it slid along to the ground to a stop. A squealing heap of nonsense, legs flying around in all directions but to no avail. Not so tough off your legs, are you, motherfucker? I had the upper hand here. I tore with my feet along its flank as I slid my forepaws deep into its throat and let fly the blood from its arteries. It struggled below me as it flopped around trying to shake me off as it bled, and I ripped it apart and it slowly died. Then when things get stabbed, clawed or bitten, it doesn't tend to kill things quickly like in the movies. Things have to have time to bleed out to die. An enormous creature takes a long time to do that, and it struggled a little as the blood pooled in the green grass. It slowed in its movements, and then just lay there gasping for air. I'd won. I grabbed it by the horn and lifted its head off the sticky floor. I stood over it as it failed. Its eyes were now full of fear and it knew it was dying. I smiled at it. I'd won. Yay me. And then I reached down and tore out its throat. Fuck unicorns.